We end tonight with the clearest pictures yet of Neptune, the most distant planet in our solar system. Take a look. The striking infrared images were taken this summer by the James Webb Space Telescope.
The James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, humanity's most advanced space observatory, has once again made headlines, but this time not merely for the stunning images of distant galaxies or the faint echoes of cosmic infancy. Instead, it was a transmission, unexpected, encrypted, and heavily classified, that emerged from deep space, relayed through JWST's secure communication protocols that sent shockwaves across the scientific and defense communities worldwide. This single data burst, seemingly innocuous in its brief signal window, has stirred unprecedented intrigue, setting in motion a storm of speculation, rigorous analysis, and behind-the-scenes activity among leading astrophysicists and intelligence analysts alike. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. Initially cataloged as a standard data dump from JWST's instruments, the transmission occurred during a routine observational sweep of a distant exoplanetary system located nearly 1,200 light-years from Earth. The telescope was engaged in a detailed atmospheric study of a super-Earth orbiting within its star's habitable zone, a standard mission aligned with JWST's goals to find potentially life-supporting worlds. However, embedded within the vast streams of scientific telemetry was an anomaly, a narrow-band signal pattern that bore no resemblance to any natural astrophysical phenomenon previously observed. At first, the possibility of instrumental interference or a glitch was explored, but further scrutiny revealed something entirely unexpected. The signal contained a highly structured pattern of pulses encoded in a mathematical sequence. The discovery immediately triggered multiple layers of alert within NASA's data analysis teams. When cross-referenced with known signal typologies and background cosmic sources, the anomaly persisted as a statistical outlier immune to conventional explanation. Within 48 hours, the encrypted portion of the transmission had been quarantined, isolated within top-tier encryption networks. It was not shared publicly. Unconfirmed but reliable sources within the deep space observational community indicated that an emergency consultation was initiated between NASA, the European Space Agency, and certain private partners with quantum decoding capabilities. What stunned the experts wasn't just the presence of an artificial pattern, it was the origin of the signal. Tracing its vector indicated that it had not emanated from the exoplanet JWST was targeting, but from a much nearer region, within our solar system's distant outskirts, close to the hypothetical edge of the Oort cloud. The telescope, due to its extremely sensitive infrared and communication detection capabilities, had incidentally picked up a signal bouncing back from that region, a region known for its remoteness and lack of detectable activity. In a twist that bordered on the surreal, the directionality suggested a reflective or transitory source, something that either relayed the signal intentionally or was simply in the pathway between the telescope and its observation target. This is where the transmission crossed from scientific curiosity to a global enigma. Analysts from DARPA and the European Defense Consortium became involved, seeking to determine whether the signal was terrestrial in nature, perhaps a relic of old deep space missions or a rogue satellite malfunction. But this hypothesis was quickly dismissed when the signal was reconstructed in full. The pulses contained modular sequences that displayed fractal repetition, something not typical of random or deteriorated digital signals. More than that, the signal exhibited what could only be described as a recursive structure. It reacted slightly to variations in probing frequencies, almost as if it was listening and adjusting. The implications are staggering. For decades, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence has revolved around passive listening, scouring the cosmos for deliberate broadcasts from alien civilizations. But what if the signal wasn't a broadcast at all? What if it was a probe, an artifact, or an autonomous communication node that had been drifting or hiding on the fringe of our solar system, silently collecting data, awaiting recognition? The transmission intercepted by JWST didn't include language, images, or audio. It was pure mathematics. To those decoding it, that was more profound. It suggested intent, not communication in the human sense, but a test, a call and response challenge built on the foundation of universal logic. A beacon left in place not to say hello, but to see if someone could even notice it. This revelation sent ripples through the most secluded sectors of global research. Private observatories began quietly redirecting their own telescopes toward the coordinates associated with the reflection. A pattern began to emerge. Instruments as varied as radio telescopes in Australia and neutrino detectors beneath the Antarctic ice began detecting coincidental background anomalies aligning with the same celestial coordinates. None were as direct or decipherable as the JWST interception, but they hinted at consistency. Something out there was active, not in the way a star emits light or a comet reflects radiation, but active in the engineered sense, deliberate. While speculation erupted behind closed doors, those involved kept the details under tight control. Publicly, JWST's data releases remained focused on stellar nurseries, ancient galaxies, and exoplanetary atmospheres. But behind the scenes, an entirely different narrative had begun unfolding. One that questioned humanity's assumed position as lone observers of the cosmos. If the signal was a test, then someone or something had left it behind. Whether long ago or recently, from a distance or nearby, was still undetermined. What became increasingly clear was that the implications stretched far beyond science. For one, this event reignited debates about the Fermi paradox, the contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations and the lack of evidence or contact. Perhaps this transmission was the answer to that paradox, cloaked not in direct communication, but in a waiting game, demanding a level of technological maturity before its detection was even possible. The fact that only JWST, with its advanced sensitivity and position at Lagrange point 2, managed to intercept it, hinted that the transmission was never meant for primitive technology. It waited, buried beneath cosmic noise, until something advanced enough could spot it. Then came the philosophical dilemma. If the transmission was not meant to be found easily, what else might be hidden among the stars? Was this a one-off anomaly or the first breadcrumb on a cosmic trail? Researchers began reviewing old datasets from Voyager, Cassini, and even the Hubble Space Telescope, searching for missed anomalies, overlooked frequencies, or unexplained artifacts. The new directive was clear: assume nothing, question everything. Patterns were re-examined. Theories once dismissed as fringe, such as the presence of non-natural structures near the solar system's edge, suddenly warranted re-evaluation. The most electrifying part of this development was the implication that the signal's presence meant surveillance. Passive observation from a non-human intelligence, either ancient or current, was a concept once reserved for science fiction. Yet here was potential evidence collected not from wild conjecture, but from the most sophisticated telescope ever constructed. The JWST wasn't built to detect alien signals, yet it might have done exactly that. The unsettling possibility began to circulate. Had humanity been noticed long ago? Was Earth under quiet observation? And had our recent technological leap finally triggered a response? Amid this uncertainty, global institutions were forced into a rare state of collaboration. Governments known for their secrecy began exchanging classified data under a veil of urgency. Top-level astrophysicists, encryption experts, and theoretical mathematicians were summoned to participate in a multinational effort, not to make sense of distant galaxies, but to decode the implications of a single silent message possibly millions of years in the making. That message, neither friendly nor hostile but undeniably intentional, presented a challenge: understand it or be left behind. Strangely, there was no follow-up transmission. Weeks passed, then months. The signal had been a singular occurrence, a spark in the void. Yet its impact didn't fade. If anything, the silence deepened the mystery. Was it a timed event? A trapdoor test of attention, only triggered when someone, or something, hit the right observational frequency? Or was it an autonomous system, reacting to the presence of an advanced enough observer in its cosmic neighborhood? One of the most compelling interpretations suggested the signal was part of a cosmic archive, a breadcrumb from an extinct civilization, possibly located nowhere near our solar system. The timing could be incidental, the message ancient, but that theory struggled to explain the signal's reactivity, the subtle shifts in its encoding when different wavelengths were used to probe it. It didn't behave like a dead message, it behaved like a living algorithm. Responsive, modular, and dispassionate, in certain academic circles, speculation evolved into actionable theory. the concept of cosmic quarantine, a hypothesis proposing that advanced civilizations avoid contact with primitive ones to prevent cultural contamination, gained renewed interest. Was this transmission a test to determine if humanity had reached the threshold of cosmic awareness? If so, what happens next? The answer remained elusive, but the mere framing of that question changed everything. Researchers and policymakers alike began considering how to prepare not just for contact, but for understanding. How do you interpret meaning when the sender's logic may be alien, not in language, but in cognition itself? The event triggered funding surges in quantum computing, AI-based signal analysis, and cross-spectrum telescopic arrays. Telescopes under construction were reprioritized. Missions planned for Mars were reconsidered in favor of deep space ventures. The search for life no longer seemed like a lonely vigil, but the pursuit of a response. Humanity had caught the whisper of something vast, something ancient or advanced, perhaps both, and it had come not with fanfare, but in a hidden data burst caught only because the right tool, at the right time, looked in the right direction. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on James Webb's shocking hidden transmission? What do you expect? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.